What is going on, everybody? Tyler's on vacation, but the party don't stop at From the Forum. We are talking Scott Fishbowl 15. We're going to be doing a live mock draft with a bunch of our friends. It's going to be a great show, so lock in, get ready, and let's have some fun. Hello. We have a truly degenerate group in the house tonight. The pole position is looking a bit different. It's a little bit better looking. It's a little bit funnier. Maybe not as strong, but the vibes are always legit. It's your boy Frick Nasty. This is From the Forum. I've got a crew with me tonight. It's going to be a good time. Chat, how we doing? Everybody that's already in the draft, hope y'all are good. Please don't snipe me. But before we jump into the Scott Fishbowl 15, live mock draft. Fellas, how are we doing tonight?
Good. Great, man. I'm doing awesome, boys. It's the eve of the Scott Fishbowl, and, what could be any better? It's the kickoff to summer. It's really the kickoff to redraft season, and I am super pumped for this draft. And we got the D-Gen boys here. We got Samwise and Mad Dog. What's going on, boys? How are you guys doing tonight? Let's start with you, Mad Dog.
Yo, what's up, guys? Thanks for having me. I don't draft for 18 more days, so getting in and getting a mock is going to be great. Get some reps here and see where some of the ADP falls.
Sweet. Yeah, absolutely. I'm mocking next Saturday, and so I'm not quite at the beginning, but we'll at least get the ADP started. Although this year, man, the scoring is going to be so huge that I don't even think the ADPs matter. Like there's a whole bunch of different builds you can do and be successful this season.
Yeah,
it's really anybody's
really
game.
Interesting for sure. There's been a lot of controversy about the third round reversal. We won't get into that tonight, but we got the chat already popping. Killa saying, "Hey guys, let's mock." Dev, the graphics god, whiskey loaded, let's roll. So shout out to my boy, always holding it down. But we don't want to keep the people waiting. If you haven't seen the scoring rules yet, basically the craziest thing about this year is that it's positionless fantasy football, right? So you are starting 11, 9 flex, 2 super flex. So in theory, you could start 11 wide receivers, 11 tight ends, 11 running backs. You're going to be limited at the quarterback position again. But the theme of the year, volume is key. You don't really have a lot of extra bonuses or anything for quarterbacks. You got 2.5 PPR for receptions in your sleeper leagues, 3.5 PPR for your tight ends, half point carry, half point per carry. So there's a lot of different things that we can do. So let's get this draft going. We're going to pop it up on the screen. And as we're rolling through, if you have questions, chat, or things that you want to know, we're happy to do that. And we'll just be kind of talking through picks and seeing what we can do. So I'm excited. It looks like a group that has been in a few of the different mocks that I've been. So I know that you guys know ball. The people that are in there know ball as well. Let's get this thing rolling.
Okay, well, we're going to get this draft started right away here. We've got a 30-second clock, so we're going to go pretty quick, and then maybe we could just assess our teams when it's all said and done. And I got to get that bell off. Here we go. And we're off.
Yeah.
All right. So Frick, what like you're at the 103, and what's your strategy to start this? Because I'm about to pick.
Yeah. So for me, it's running back heavy. If you look at the number one projected player in this, it's gonna be Bijan Robinson. I'm praying to God that he makes it to me there. If it's not Bijan, the other two players that I'm in contention with, they're gonna be Jahmyr Gibbs and then Christian McCaffrey. It's a 4,000 point tournament. You don't really have any time to not take someone there. So Bijan's the guy that I hope for. If not, then I'm going to be looking at CMC. Even with the injury risk there, like I said, 4,000 point tournament and 4,000 person tournament. So you have to look at it like, hey, like I'm expecting everyone on my team to not get hurt. And then to answer Dev's question, they did do the 3-round reversal. They did it randomly, but it was a bit contentious. So it was initially not. And then they kind of did like a random 100-yard dash to decide if they were going to do it or not.
There you have it. And all I went an auto pick there, so that's not the start I wanted. So I'm pivoting my strategy right away, and I wanted to start tight end early because, like you said, volume is king here, and with the tight end premium the way it stands, like that would have been my goal. But I'm okay with Josh Allen. I'm going to be right on the ball now that I have everything set up here and the draft is going. Where are we at next year? This is you, Samwise. What's your strategy heading into this one?
My strategy is to auto pick.
There you go.
No, I've got like a delay between the app and our recording, so I was not able to get to it quick enough. It was showing me that Killers was still on the Klizak.
I'm gonna slow this clock down, I think.
Yeah.
Just to maybe do it 60 seconds.
Yeah, so we've had people on both sides of the spectrum. So the chat saying we got some people on the pick 12. Roman saying that he's pick 12, so he wants that third round reversal. I think that was the funny split of it, because if you're in the front half, you're like, hey, like I don't want to do this. If you're in the back half, then it's like, yeah, obviously I want the third round reversal. We got Vince in the chat. One thing to point out about Vince, he's running one of the Twitter chat groups. So if you are on X and you're wanting to talk strategy with different people that are in your group, they're getting posted quite a bit. I'm running the 103 chat. I know that we've had other people on the show, like John Marable. He's running the ones. So if you're looking to kind of discuss strategy with your group, great way to do that as well. So Vince, I think, is maybe running the 109, but definitely a super cool dude.
Yeah, I was actually in a league with Vince last year for Scott Fishbowl, and great guy, active in the chat. He went tight end heavy. I think him and I both made playoffs. He made another round or two on me. Just seeing the work that he's putting in on Twitter right now is really admirable. So can't say enough good things about that guy.
No, yeah, most definitely. And I think that's like the funnest part about this is it's like you have people that are more like industry professionals. You have people that are just like, hey, like I heard about this thing, let's do it. You have people that are somewhere in the middle. And it's just such a great community atmosphere that it just makes it so much more fun to be a part of, for sure.
Absolutely. And it's just not another tournament. It's like the premier fantasy football event in the industry. Scott Fish, one of the most respected voices in football, he brings together everybody. He brings together community, and it's for a great charity, and it's just such a good thing to be a part of. And yeah, another year here, guys. And now we're headed around the turn here, and you're still on auto there, Samwise. You able to fix that up?
I'm trying to. My app is giving me trouble.
All right.
I was losing my mind there a little bit. You had turned off the screen that we were sharing, but my screen, I'm also using Sleeper on desktop, and I kept hearing like the clicking sound, and I thought I was gonna like go crazy a little bit.
Yeah, I am too, but I'm gonna use my phone, I think.
Yeah, I'm on my phone and I'm on the app here. Like they're unison, but maybe it's just Canadian Standard Time here, folks, that we're working on, and that's why Mad Dog and I are killing this draft here. We're up on our heels.
So Sam, given that you have,
I've got some serious moves to make after starting off with Burrow and Hurts, because I was going to go zero quarterback.
Yeah. So talk to me about that, because like I think that if you think about a typical Superflex draft, people are usually leaning in pretty heavily. So when you say you're going zero QB, is that something where you're not going to touch it all the way through the draft? Is there a point that you're going to start looking, or is it just like, hey, in my early picks, it's not a priority?
I was not. I did a mock last night, I guess, with Fantasy and Frames, and I was deliberately going no quarterback, and then right around the I think the 9th round, there was somebody was like at the top of my list, ready to be picked. I can't remember who it was, but so I, that's pretty much what I'm operating on. If somebody's sitting right there, I'm not taking the quarterbacks out, but I'm not reaching for them or anything like that. if they're the next player up in my queue, then so be it.
No, yeah, for sure. So some more comments coming in from the chat. So Nate's been a pretty heavy mocker. So he said the draft board's been looking crazy from the 3-round reversal to the 3rd-round reversal, and the tiers are flattening out really quick. So yeah, that's going to be something to keep in mind. I think what's nice with the flexibility this year is that even if it wasn't 3rd-round reversal, like you're not going to miss out on like a particular position. I think if you're a value-based drafter, like, and that's kind of where your specialty is, like you're going to be in a good spot. I think you really need to be zigging when other people are zagging. If you see that, hey, people are going heavy on quarterback, maybe you don't necessarily want to jump into that. If it's a running back heavy start, maybe you look at the tight ends, maybe you look at the wide receivers. So there's a lot of different ways that you can go with that.
Yeah, it's the beauty about this scoring is it makes all the positions kind of equal at this stage. You know, there's some positions that you got to kind of fade depending on where you're sitting at. You know, the volume is king here, and you're looking at the people that are going to get the most targets, the most run, and the way this board's shaking out right now, it looks like people are onto that. They're savvy to it.
Yeah,
You know?
I was real happy to get Henry right there. In that other mock I was telling you about, I think in the 301, because I took 12 because it was all that was left. At the 301, I got Breece Hall, and I was really happy with that. So that's 2 mocks in a row where I was really, really pleased with what I ended up with.
Yeah, and it's not just the fishbowl that you see Breece Hall fading quite a bit in. I mean, even in startup drafts, you know, he's fading to the 5th. I got him at the 512 in a draft. So volume in this situation is key here. And yeah, like a Breece Hall, you know, sliding to the middle of the 3rd here. I could see his volume being there this year, folks. And I'm high on him. Absolutely.
Yeah, and the points perception, you know what I mean? Points per reception. So, I mean, he gets the best of both worlds.
Yeah, absolutely. And we got a vote of confidence from Aaron Glenn speaking about Breece Hall that he is a running back. And when they have Justin Fields, who has shown question marks behind center, I think he can really lean on Breece Hall, and we're going to see a resurgence from him this season.
So we got the queen of Fantasy Sports Advice Network in the chat, Amber. Hope you're doing well. Always a pleasure seeing you on the show. We got our first hashtag of the day. Dev saying never QB, always the way to go. So I think the strategies are coming out pretty quickly today. We also have Famous Jay received their invite today. Congratulations. That's super exciting. So
Awesome.
Welcome to the madness.
That's a huge thing, and especially like this year, it seems like the invites are coming out a little bit later than in years past. So like people are kind of on their toes a little bit more than normally, and I for one was one of them, and I was on one of the first waves. So you know, just be patient out there, folks. I think there's going to be a huge amount of you know, invites coming your way right away. So you know, as long as you got your invite, you know, you have subscribed and you've you know, signed up for the fishbowl, you know, stay glued. Check your junk mail as well, because that's a huge thing as well.
Yeah, absolutely. I think Scott was saying today, I saw him tweet out that he was over 230 emails behind. So stay patient. Hopefully, you know, if you're really waiting for that invite, you get it and you'll be able to pick a division that you like and have some fun.
Yeah. So what do you guys think about? So one of the things that Vincent mentioned, he said that Hurts round 2 is big value in this format. He's saying if I don't get one of the big 4 rushing quarterbacks, probably going to just punt it and looking for stacks. So I got 2 questions for y'all. One, in a tournament of this size, do you prioritize stacking at all? And 2, like, are you looking at kind of like the rushing quarterbacks as the primary players that if you're going to take one, is that who you're targeting?
For me, yeah, I mean, I if I'm targeting somebody, it's because of the rushing attempts as well. Will add some points. I mean, that's the key. It's a Konami code in any sort of league, right? With Superflex, so you could start more than one quarterback. That's the route I would be going. But you know, me starting Josh Allen here probably wouldn't have gone that route, like I mentioned, and it's just a bit early in the game here to be taking quarterbacks, and when you look at how the scoring last year would have transferred over, you know, a tight end premium kind of league, and guys are getting the volume on running back, and I missed the boat on all of those things, picking Josh Allen there. So, just food for thought here, folks. Just make sure that you got a decent game plan coming in when your draft spot might pivot.
Yeah, one of the big things that I noticed when I did the initial analysis after the score dropped was like, for the super flex spots, what is the value over replacement going to be relative to the quarterbacks? And so if you look at the first 24 picks, who would in theory be the super flex spots, the only 4 that give you a positive like replacement value is going to be the big 4 that you're typically looking at. So Allen Jackson, not to be confused with Allen Jackson, legend, and then Jaden Daniels, Jalen Hurts. So it's like, I think for me, it's like if I don't see one of those 4, and really if I'm in the back half of 2, I'll consider it. But otherwise, I just want to be peppering those other pieces.
And you mentioned Hurts there as a great value because he's kind of going, with all the flair that Lamar got last year, Jaden Daniels storming the scene and Josh Allen just keeping it coming. Jalen Hurts has kind of just still been steady, and he will still be steady. Nothing. The Eagles aren't going anywhere. That offense is going to be prolific.
Yeah, and as long as the banning of the tush push got shot down, otherwise he'd be faded a little bit more. But those touchdowns, you can't possibly ignore him,
especially in the red zone there. It's insane.
So we do continue to roll in the fantasy football royalty. So we got Angie in the chat. Good evening, Angie. Always a pleasure to see you. Sorry I don't have my hot dog shirt on today, but wore it 2 weeks ago, so I can't be looking too stale in the chat. And then it looks like Nate's actually in our draft, so he's drafting right behind me. Not happy with me right now, so I guess you're welcome. I don't know. I think Kamara, if you look at like redraft, he's going around like RB20. In this sort of format, there's 2 things that I'm looking at. He's one of those players in that 3-4 turn that I'm looking at pretty much every time. If you look at Kellen Moore, all of his offenses have ran more than 60 plays. And 2, like they don't have a lot of options behind him that I'm worried about. So he's one of those players that it's like, all right, like let me go out and get him. It may feel a little bit rich just because he's older, but I'm playing for upside here, and I think that he really has that.
Absolutely.
Yeah, couldn't agree more. And they have QB questions. You don't know how Olave is going to respond this year. Shaheed is still coming off an injury. Like the world is changing, but Kamara is staying the same. He's still going to get that workload. He's going to get all those catches. So there's nothing to worry about there.
Yeah. Good deal. And then Famous Jay, you must have missed it a little bit earlier, but just to reiterate for people that maybe have joined a little bit late, it will be 3rd round reversal this year. So you're going to have the first 2 rounds as normal. Round 3 is going to start back at the 12 spot. So just something there to note.
Is anybody doing live drafts?
What's that?
Is anybody doing a live draft?
I am.
Yeah. So what's your strategy? Because you're essentially kind of on the clock, on the ball. Some of us are doing these slow drafts. We have some time to kind of think about our play. Like, so, with all the distractions that happen within the live drafts, we obviously have some viewers here that are probably going to be drafting live. What is Samwise's advice to those that are going to be drafting when the clock is ticking really quickly? The beer people are coming around, asking you for things. You got your buddy, nudging you. Hey, let's go for a smoke,
right. Yeah, I think, like I said earlier, I think my idea is to not go for a quarterback unless one falls into my lap, like he's sitting at the top of the chart. And that actually could happen later in the draft. I think last night somebody got Drake May in like the 8th, and Drake May he's got some wheels, you know what I mean? So there's still a little bit of possibility of that if you want it. Like there are some people that just don't feel right unless they get a quarterback out of the deal. For me, I want to go high volume running backs or pass catching running backs. And then I'm not concerned about deep throw bonuses. I'm concerned about first downs. So I'm going to be looking at the slot guys as much as I can, once the running back well starts drying up.
So go running back hard and then hit the guys that are going to get peppered with targets in the slot. Makes a ton of sense.
So one of the players that's obviously a big piece of this format this year is going to be Travis Hunter. So they're awarding offensive players for defensive actions, which for him is a benefit if he does get the defensive snaps, because you can be seeing the various pieces there. So in the mocks that I've seen him go, it's been anywhere from round 2 to round 5, 6. How early would y'all be willing to take him, knowing that he has that potential upside from the playing
from what I've seen in the couple mocks I did, I think they all went right about where Mad Dog took him today, right about halfway through the second, or actually, I guess it's almost 3/4 of the way through the second, but I'm okay with that. I can draft him as early as halfway through the second, but I think I'm going to let somebody else worry about it. You know what I mean? Because there's so many other good players still on the board, and there are still question marks about how much defense he's going to play.
And I think, like, how do you project something like that? Because it's like, even if he was like, if I gave a conservative estimate of how many defensive points he's going to get in this format, I don't think he gets 100.
No, I mean, I'm not banking on him being a defensive guy at this stage in here. You know, that might be a little sugarcoating for you. Like, I don't think I think it's more of a trap, kind of like how the kickers were a trap last year, and
or even like Rashid Shaheed last year. Like I saw him going like the first round of drafts last year.
Yeah,
it was a trap.
Mims.
Yeah. So it could be another trap that's not going to be very fruitful when they know that, you know, they're going to be using Travis Hunter on the offense primarily. You know, in my opinion, it looks like it's set in stone. They moved up for this guy, and you know, he could be neck and neck with Brian Thomas Jr. I have my own, you know, thoughts on that situation, and I've gone in deep with my boys about it. And you know, I just think that Brian Thomas Jr. is getting drafted quite a bit higher than he should be in Dynasty, because I think that, you know, Travis Hunter can be the number one there. And and I'm not convinced Trevor Lawrence can sustain this. Like, I mean, he's shown some glimpse of it as well. And so there's quite a bit of things, red flags for me in that offense. And you know, I'm willing to take some stabs, but in this kind of tournament, I think that this might be kind of one of those trap plays that happened last year with the Shaheed. You hit the nail on the head there, Joe. I think you nailed it there with the Shaheed last year. Great comparison.
So just a little fan love here. So in that last turn of picks, just one of the RB values, I think that was for the Pollard pick. So Grindberg holding it down for the community here.
And you know what, Vince, he mentioned on here, he is hosting the very first Australia draft, live draft. That's huge, man. What a great accomplishment that is. Vince, way to go, my man.
That's crazy.
Yeah, that's awesome. My wife spent over a year in Australia, loves the country, and you know, my heart goes out. So love it, Vince. Hope you guys do well, and it's a great success.
Yeah, that's super exciting. And then we got to button up a little bit. Tyler is apparently on vacation watching the show, so said, let's go crew or holding it down. So Tyler, you know, it's tough being at the top, man, but we might give you your spot back next week if you bring me back a souvenir. So we'll see what happens. So looking at the board right now, where do y'all feel like I see a couple like very wide receiver heavy teams. We have 2 running back heavy teams, and we have sprinkles of kind of the rest. Is there a strategy, like, or do you feel like more strongly about either one of these approaches as you're seeing the board unfold?
Yeah, I mean, this is one of my first mock drafts that I've done, so this is kind of, you know, compelling to me, seeing all the runs of these running backs. So I started panicking when it came back to my round. I was like, okay, why is all these running backs? But I'm pretty happy with the roundabout there that I got. Swift and Pollard later. I think they're going to be high value touch guys. I really like Joe's build when you think about where you're headed. With all those super flex those flex spots that it could be. He's got 5 running back ones potentially. Aaron Jones. There has been some rumors about Jordan Mason coming in and stealing a lot of goal line work out of there, so there is some worry there. But as your 4th guy or your 5th running back, and in such a strong kind of point system, I like that approach over like a wide receiver heavy kind of at the end of the round there where the cheese went. Even though those are guys that are going to put up points, the volume that these running backs get and the point differential, I think is definitely good.
I'm also even with Merck because he just sniped me for Mayfield. I was planning on taking him there, so we're just gonna call it even at this point.
There you go. Now, when is the time where you start considering, because none of us really have a second quarterback here, when are you looking at the quarterback? Is when maybe the running backs start really drying up here, or when the wide receiver love starts to get a little bit more convoluted, when you see guys like Olave, Waddle, Odunze, all with questionable situations, even Pickens in that range. What's your thought process on the quarterbacks there, Joe?
Yeah, so for me, I think that I talked about this at the start. So there's 4 quarterbacks that are worth taking in the first 2 rounds, in my opinion. We talked about those. I am not going to force my hand on quarterback, but looking at the numbers, there is going to become a point where it's more beneficial, even though, like, if you were to look like purely from the super flex spot, it was beneficial to take someone else in the second round or whatever. But in that points per game, when you get into the later rounds, that quarterback is going to outscore like a wide receiver 2 or a wide receiver 3. So I think at these like 8, 9 rounds, I'm hoping that people don't go running back heavy, honestly, so that I can just keep pounding that right now. But if it's going to be like am I going to take a wide receiver 3 or like a mediocre tight end or like a backup running back that's like kind of just like a goal line guy, I would rather take the QB. So I would have taken Mayfield in that 7th and then called it a day. Now that I missed out on that, and a lot of these other like potential runners, like Drake May, like runs a decent amount. Caleb, he also runs like a good bit, so you have that upside there. But now, if I'm looking at the QB room, I don't know. I'm probably going to be holding out for quite a bit because it's just like, all right, like I kind of missed that boat there. But yeah, I really like that Baker at the 7-9. I feel like that's great value.
So Mad Dog, you're sitting at the 105. Is that where you're drafting in your real draft?
Yeah, that is where I'm picking.
So is that kind of like are you happy with the way this is shaking out for you at this stage of the game here?
Yeah, I think so. To be able to get somebody like Gibbs who has the receiving profile and he's going to get the touches. We saw the explosive plays last year from him. You guys spoke to Travis Hunter. You look at somebody like Ladd McConkey. We saw him command the targets last year, whether he was in the slot or he was outside. I think he's still going to be the primary receiver for Justin Herbert. So the volume is there. And Kenneth Walker, I think now that we see him in a Kubiak offense that runs more of an outside zone, as long as he can stay healthy, I think at the 4-5, I'm more than happy to take him there.
Yeah, and Devontae Adams, like that's a wide receiver 1 this year, in my opinion. I think he's going to finish in the top 12. Getting him at the, that's volume is key. I mean, right now, you just pointed out to me a monster advantage here that I might be looking at Devontae Adams in a round earlier than that, sniping him, because I think that, the upside there can be there, especially if you go, running back to start your draft and then go in with an anchor like Devontae Adams. wow, I think that could be volume. I mean, we know that McVay concentrates his targets to two wide receivers. We've seen what Robert Woods and Cooper Kupp did in that offense, and you add a guy like Davante Adams, and now I'm just really optimistic about that situation. You know, they were the only team that really put any pressure on the Eagles last year headed into the playoffs. And I think they're putting their chips in here. And things look pretty good in my opinion. And yeah, I think that's a fantastic pick, Mad Dog, at round 5 for Davante Adams. And I'll be looking at that value moving forward. What do you think? What are your thoughts of Davante this year there, Samwise?
I love him. And here's the thing. He's such a good route runner that everywhere he's gone, no matter what role they put him in, he commands targets. Much like Diggs, Keenan Allen, so on and so forth. Just commands targets. And I think it's worth mentioning that the, number of times that Puka tends to get banged up, you know what I mean? And miss a game or miss a half or spend some time in the blue tent. And then, I mean, boy, you can do a lot worse than having, a future Hall of Famer as your de facto wide receiver 1 when it really is a 1A, 1B situation. But you could do a lot worse than have Davante Adams be the guy that's up.
Absolutely.
No, yeah. I think it's going to be really interesting too. It's like, so if we're saying that the theme of this draft is volume is key, it's like, how much of a passing offense does it need to be to say like, hey, like I would rather have, like if you look at like the Bears situation where it's like you have DJ Moore, you have Odunze, you still have all these other pieces, Burden, you have Loveland, you have Kmet. Would you be better off taking like a Calvin Ridley who doesn't have a lot more competition versus somebody that's in a unclear situation? Obviously, it could pan out. I mean, you look at Nico last year, there was a lot of concern. They signed Diggs. What's going to happen? And before he got hurt, it was like he was a top 3 receiver. So there's obviously upside there. But I do find myself saying like, hey, like I'd rather reach a little bit for somebody that I know is the one in the offense than take a 2. And I'm really upset about that Jacoby Myers pick with that in mind.
Clarity is the key here when you're looking at things, and if you're on the waff of a pick here, like I'm going to go with more clarity in an offense, and obviously upside plays a huge part, but yeah, give me the clarity, number 1 wide receiver, and maybe a not so, but that offense could be ascending, right? You know what I mean? And yeah, I'm all for that. All right.
Yeah. Well, I think it's interesting too if you've got a situation where there really are only 2 kind of star pass catchers in the situation, as opposed to, like you mentioned, Chicago. You don't know what's going to happen if Caleb ends up spreading the ball all over the place. Then none of these guys are going to finish in Scott Fishbowl in the top tier. You know what I mean? Even that from a talent standpoint, they should. But I do think there are situations where you could, if you were able to land McBride and Marvin Harrison Jr., like that's pretty much all they have for pass catching right now. So, why not monopolize that pass game? And even if they're splitting touchdowns and such like that, you can have both. And I saw somebody do it last night too. Somebody drafted Rashee Rice and Xavier Worthy onto their team. And I was like, with the amount of times that Hollywood Brown goes down and the season we just saw out of Kelsey last year, it's not a bad plan of attack. Because I think Kansas City's going to throw the ball a lot more this season than they did last year.
So one team that I want to point out, because it was mentioned in the chat. So Dev says that Team 11 is fun as hell. So if we look, all wide receivers and then Kyler Murray. So what are y'all thinking about this approach? This is very contrarian to what I am planning to do. So I'm going to sit this one out. So I'm curious what y'all think about taking this kind of approach.
I mean, it could work. Certainly could definitely work. Those are all like, especially the top 3 there. You know,
Yeah.
they're exciting. I'm not sure I go the Cup, Shakir, Samuel route after starting that like
Yeah,
that. You know, I think there's some value at some other positions at that stage of the game. Like a couple of the guys that I picked there at 10, Travis, Tyrone Tracy, I'd be able to take it over Cup and Shakir out absolutely based off volume
I
there.
think you can add Flowers to that too.
Absolutely, Flowers, yeah. So Cup, Shakir, and oh yeah, and Flowers as well. You think can be added to that bottom side? You get rid of.
In my opinion, you just never know. I mean, every year we hear that he's going to explode, and every year he's okay. You know,
I think the one thing that's most appealing to me with this wide receiver approach is if you look at kind of like sustainability. And one of the big things in having like a successful fishbowl season is having players stay healthy. Going with like a heavy running back approach, like you are really pushing the button on like, hey, like is my team gonna survive the season?
that's right. You immediately become volatile. It's risk reward on that. Um, but I agree with you guys on those bottom four receivers. Like, Cup, is he washed? Shakir, Samuel. I wouldn't say it's an ambiguous receiver room, but we'll see, right? Like Debo has to find a role in that offense. Terry McLaurin's obviously the alpha. Maybe we see Bensonot take a step. It's right. Like they might say healthy, but there's a lot more question marks there when I think there was some different value on the board that you could have went in that direction.
I do like, as far as most of us are wondering what Debo is really going to bring to the table, if he's going to be sort of back to himself or if he's going to continue down the road that he was going last season. If he gets into Washington and they do the San Francisco thing and start letting him carry the ball 5 times a game, well, that's half a point a carry. He's also really good at catching the ball over the middle and running away from people, so he can turn in, some long games. So he's definitely a wild card. But I do agree with Greinberg originally that it's you. I don't know. I would have to look at the board to see, but was there better value at other positions at the same time?
Yeah. So let me ask you all this. So we're getting to the 11th round, which means that we've essentially filled out our starting lineups. So when you're thinking about fishbowl, I think one of the reasons that I've been successful historically is that I don't tend to go for players that are like just like going to be like a backup. They're like the wide receiver 4. If somebody gets hurt, then they're kind of like a wide receiver 3. So it's like I'm curious, like at what round are you starting to throw darts at like, hey, like here's somebody who I think can win a league. So we think about like big players that popped at the end of last year. Like if you had Chase Brown on your team, like you probably went pretty far in fishbowl last year.
Yeah.
So it's like how do you lock in on those guys? Also, Michael Pittman in an 11th round as the wide receiver 1 for that team is like insane.
Yeah, especially when you factor in potentially Daniel Jones being the starting quarterback, which is all signs point to that. And as much as Daniel Jones scares you as a throwing quarterback, he definitely is an upgrade to Anthony Richardson. And for that matter, that elevates all the pass catchers in reality in that offense. I'm a lot higher on Josh Downs, and maybe he's the guy that we should be looking at this stage of the game here because he's a slot guy that's hyper targeted and looks like Samwise. Talk about your Josh Downs pick here in round 9.
Well, what I said was I'd go full on running backs. I'd try to mix in some tight ends because of the bonuses. But for wide receivers, I'm going almost strictly slot. Curtis Godwin was ripping it up last year when he went down. And I think even with the presence of Emeka being there, I still think he's going to have Godwin's going to have a good season. I think I can lean on Godwin and Downs. I think they're a set it and forget it until their bye week. And that's all I'm really looking for is you want guys where you're like, this guy touches the ball enough that I'm not going to have to worry about changing my lineup every week.
Sure. Are there any players in these later rounds that you can't leave the draft without? I'll hopefully he's there whenever I make the pick. But I'll tell you, my guy is Ray Davis. With the situation that's going on in Buffalo with the James Cook situation and just how good that offense is, like he's one of those players to me that's like I will reach. I would rather have Ray Davis in the 12th than say like the people that are on the board right now. It's like Trey Harris with the Chargers. It's like, do I like Trey Harris as a player? Sure. Is he going to command the volume to be like startable in this format? Probably not. So like, let me take the chance on like that. If Cook goes down, then now I have a RB1 that did well last year. So it's like, that's kind of how I approach it. And the other thing that I say too,
and the Bills aren't exactly happy with Cook either. So if they're not going to extend him before the season, I mean, if they want to, if he makes enough noise about it, he might end up splitting carries with Ray Davis, whether he likes it or not. And that's really going to piss him off in a contract year. But Ray Davis he's a strong player, man. I mean, he can start.
Yeah. So it'll be
for me, the guy was Trey Benson, who not coincidentally just got picked 4 people before my last pick. That's who I was going for. I was like 11th round Trey Benson, and he got snatched up. So,
all right, I'm going to give you a dark
by
horse.
by the end of the year he'll be starting, but not early enough to be taking him in the first 6 rounds.
I'm looking at a very ambiguous backfield that has some injury concerns, and to me, a clear guy that has the potential to take on that role, and you can get him in. You were probably didn't. He's not even in our queue. Probably not for another 70 picks, and I'm talking about Miles Sanders, who I'm honestly thinking he could be the guy that is leading that backfield in a 50-50 split to start the year, maybe. And then you never know. We saw what Javonte Williams had to offer last year. I think he's gassed. The wheels are gone off of him. And I think Miles Sanders got a little bit left in the tank. And, his yards per carry is a bit better. He's shown that he could be a little bit healthier, a little bit healthier. And that means a lot. And the Cowboys really don't have anything outside of Jaden Blue, who, I don't think he can carry the load. He's not the size that's going to be able to, put on, the pounds to be able to run up the middle. And the Cowboys adding George Pickens, I think they're going to be in the red zone a little bit more. And Dak Prescott is not going to be running the rock. So who are they going to be giving the ball to? And I'm looking at Miles Sanders as a guy that is going to be a value everywhere you see. And I'm getting him in redraft, getting him in best ball, and I'll probably get him later on. I'm going to reach for him in the Scott Fish Bowl because it's a guy that he hits, whatever. I'm sorry, if he doesn't hit, whatever. But if he hits, he's going to be a guy that's going to help propel my team over the edge here.
And from what they've said so far, I believe they're saying that Williams and Sanders have been splitting first-team reps. So, I mean, that seed has been planted a little bit, and then the auto draft takes Ray Davis. The perks of talking about your things before they happen. But this is a good transition. So, it was a question from Killa. So, the 22
I was going to take Ray Davis.
Allows for handcuffs. So, he's saying all wide receiver can kind of make sure that the lineup pops. It's not best ball. So like, is that a gamble? So I'm curious, like one of the philosophies that I have in a tournament like this is I will not draft a handcuff for a player that I have. If I draft Christian McCaffrey, I will not pick up Garendo because I'm thinking to myself, if I'm going to win, which is probably not going to happen, he's going to be healthy. And then the handcuffs that I take are going to be other people's players' handcuffs. And then I'm infusing them into a lineup that's already working. So how do you feel about handcuffing in this situation?
I mean, unless the handcuff is an elite upside guy that I would be picking anyway. Like, I mean, I'm looking for guys that are coming in that could an injury away, whether it's on the team or not. Like, I'm picking a guy like Woody Marks or Taj Brooks that, one injury away and they're propelled into a lineup that maybe could give them that upside. And I'll definitely veer off of getting the handcuff because of what exactly Joe said.
Yeah, I'm the same as you, Joe. Like in this style of play, I'm going and taking different handcuffs. I don't need to go and handcuff Jahmyr Gibbs with David Montgomery, or I don't need to get Charbonnet or Martinez for Walker, because it's exactly what you said. I hope that they're going to be healthy and they're going to provide for me. So I'm gonna, potentially block somebody else if their alpha running back goes down.
All right, so we're almost into the last round here. It's been really interesting watching this unfold. I don't really feel great about the draft that I had, being honest. But we're here. We do.
I don't feel great about starting with 2 quarterbacks.
Yeah, we gotta make the font bigger on your phone so you can read.
I certainly pivoted from my wanting to take Brock Bowers at 102 and then ended up auto picking Josh Allen. So at least I know what may be out there after that happens. So no animosity here. I think this is a great start to the Fish Bowl. Just got to get logged back in.
So we are obviously drafting on Sleeper, which is using the 2.5 points per reception. In the MFL leagues, there's actually points per targets. And so you don't have as big of a PPR. According to Scott, it doesn't necessarily impact like the scoring between different leagues. But would that change y'all's strategy if you're getting points per target instead of like having it all solely based off of a reception?
I think it has to a little bit, because there are some teams where the quarterback might not be the most accurate in the world, but they're also going to throw the ball 40 times in a game. So those targets can add up pretty quickly. But I mean, at the end of the day, you'd rather the guy caught the ball and ran to the painted area.
Cut and dry, Samwise.
There we go.
Oh, that's awesome. All right, Calvin Austin. I like this pick here. From a Steelers fan in the background there, Joe, what's your outlook on Calvin Austin? I know there's a lot of talk about maybe Roman Wilson getting that role. Like, what's happening with the Steelers? Because I need to know a little bit about that.
Yeah, so the big thing with the Steelers, if you really look in the last 5 years, they've really avoided intermediate throws over the middle, right? So they've played a very conservative style of football that aligns with the quality of quarterback play that they've had. Dating back to like the last year of Roethlisberger when he had the noodle arm, and it was like, all right, we're going to do quick passing so he doesn't get hit, and it's going to be to the outside, because if you don't have confidence in the arm, throwing over the middle is inherently a more risky proposition. Then you have Kenny Pickett, you have Mason Rudolph, you have Mitch Trubisky in there. You don't want those guys throwing over the middle. So it was the same kind of thing. We're going to be quick. We're going to be outside. Bring in Aaron Rodgers. Say what you want about the Achilles. Say what you want about whatever his personal beliefs, all that stuff is. I think that they will be able to open up the field a little bit more. I think people are like, oh, like Art Smith, like they're going to have like 12 tight end sets and they're going to do all this weird stuff. And it's like, what's the point? I think that he's a really good offensive coordinator and that he caters his offense to the style of play that they have. If you look at last year, they relied a lot on play action. They relied on the moon ball a lot with Russ and Pickens. So I think you're going to see a much different offense. Calvin Austin, the biggest thing with him is that he's only 5'9", so it's hard to kind of get him going. But I do think that he slots in as the number 2 wide receiver. Roman Wilson kind of has an uphill battle. He was banged up last year. They had some concerns about his attitude and ability to learn the playbook. I think when you're getting into these later rounds, I really like that Calvin Austin pick. Not even just as a homer, but there's who is going to be out there. I think the other person that could really benefit, we saw him picked at 11-3, Pat Freiermuth. I mean, Pat Freiermuth is an excellent
I agree.
catching tight end. Whoever's going to be the second option on that team, we don't know who it is, but I think one of those 2 guys is going to pop this year for sure.
I mean, if this drafted anything for any of us, it kind of pointed out some values that are a couple rounds outside of where they should be going in this, and I think Pat Fryermuth is right up there. I was noticing that too. I was on the verge of picking him, and then I got sniped there. But yeah, that's a great call there, Joe. You just kind of laid out kind of from more of a bias, but I mean, that was non-biased in my opinion. Coming from a Steelers fan, it was more cut and dry, and it sounds like you could take your homerism and just put it to a side. So it was very, you know, truthful about your team.
Yeah, for sure. And I don't think they're going to become a team that passes the ball 40, 50 times a game. But if you have an opportunity, there's so many vacated targets with Pickens being removed from that equation that somebody's going to have to step up. And they don't sign Aaron Rodgers and not throw the ball at all or run the same offense that they did with Russ last year, or what they would have done with Mason if he was going to be the QB. So it'd be really interesting to see how it unfolds.
I think behind closed doors, when Rodgers is negotiating his contract, I think he says, am I going to be able to like change plays at the line of scrimmage? Because you've seen the last, I mean, at the Jets, he audibled out of running plays so often. I mean, so often. Because I don't think they wanted to throw the ball that much if they didn't have to, if they weren't already trailing. So it'd be interesting to see. I think I agree with you, Joe. I think they're going to throw the ball more than people think they're going to, but still getting Caleb the ball reasonably often.
Yeah.
Yep.
So just catching up with the chat a little bit. Yeah. So who's the mic saying that Chig Okonkwo will be the number 2 target for Tennessee? So yeah, there's been a lot of chatter about him potentially being a breakout candidate in the points per target league. I feel like what's his name? Wide receiver.
Ridley.
Yeah, Ridley could have 200 targets this year.
I love both Chig and I love Ridley in their values at this stage. Give me Chig every day of the week. His yak ability, and if they're talking about giving him more targets and him being potentially the number 2 target in that offense, and we know what Cam Ward can do with his arm. He's quite a bit of an upgrade over Will Levis, like I'm not saying that they're still going to be on the bottom half of the league in offense, but huge upgrade. I love that for Chig. Chig could pull into the top 10 at this stage if all things go to plan, and he's so good after the catch and what he could do in some space. Yep. So give him another 2 or 3 targets a game, and we're looking at a tight end we could be relying on every day. Mad Dog, you seem to agree. You got anything to add to that?
I do. Like, I think he's a little bit undersized for a tight end, but we've seen the athleticism there, and when he gets the opportunity, he capitalizes on it. And like you said, I really like the yak ability that he possesses, and he can easily step into that number 2 role behind Ridley and kind of be that safety blanket for Cam Ward.
100%. Wow. So
what? No, nobody's going to take John Metchie. No.
I thought they were going to trade him, honestly.
Yeah. Yeah, you would think, like, with all that they brought in, that wide receiver room, many said is an upgrade from last year. But when you look at the stability that Tank Dell and Diggs brought to it, this could be a monster year for Nico Collins when we think about it. If he could stay healthy. That's the factor here. This could be Nico's year. He could finish. He's got the potential, but we will see. Got a couple rookies pushing him, but rookies aren't a Stephon Diggs, even though he's been banged up, and a Tank Dell that showed a lot. So I'm optimistic about Nico and that offense, but that offensive line is pretty shady still. So what are your guys' thoughts on the Texans?
Yeah, people always it's like there's such a love affair with Nico Collins that if it was any other player missing the games that he misses, like, people would hang him out to dry. And this is like an acceptable thing. They're like, okay, well, he might miss 5 games. I'm like, 5 games?
Yes, 5 games.
And then meanwhile, he gets 2 rookies added that combined for like 2,000 yards their last year in college.
I was shocked that they took Noel in that draft. I thought once they had Higgins, I was like, surely they're going to go get some offensive line. And then I was like, oh,
right,
double dip. Cool.
Yeah, and Noel is what third on the or fourth on the draft.
On the
on
chart,
the depth chart now.
And I honestly for me, I think he could outplay Christian Kirk and get that slot role. And with a weak offensive line, he could be the dark horse here to really emerge in that offense. And I'm taking stabs deep on Jalen Noel. I liked his profile. I had him ranked 7th in my rookie rankings before the draft, and the draft obviously changed that. Him and Higgins were neck and neck.
I had him over Higgins.
Yeah, there you go. Okay. So, obviously the draft capital has a lot to say, and obviously the Texans have a lot of plans for Higgins, but we can't discount that coveted slot role that turned Tank Dell into that superstar he was his rookie season. So the same quarterback is there, the same offensive line essentially without Laramie Tunsil. So we're looking at a downgrade there, and maybe a little bit more reliance on that slot. And when you think about Joe Mixon being banged up, there's a necessity there. Why are they bringing in Nick Chubb so late? Because there's some serious red flags there, in my opinion, in that Texans backfield. So I'm looking at that slot role, and whoever gets that in camp, I'm going to be definitely targeting them late in the drafts because I saw what they could do with Tank Dell. And I'm just assuming that Jalen Noel is going to win that battle.
And one other thing that's interesting that you say about like Tunsil being banged up or like then he got traded, he's actually not that good of a run blocker. So pass protection, he's fantastic. But I think it actually improves their run game, even though like he's gone, right? So he's like their premier left tackle, but his pass protection was a lot better than his run blocking. So whoever is able to take in that, I don't have a lot of confidence in what Nick Chubb's going to do. Woody Marks was somebody that I had eyes and ears on throughout the draft process. So I was like, that could be really interesting. But
I love Woody Marks, man. Yeah. I love him.
It's not outlandish to think that Nick Chubb could be the healthier out of the two between him and Joe Mixon at this stage, and they're bringing in that veteran presence just to fill that gap. Like it's crazy to think that, Samwise, but why are they doing that?
It is because he's washed. He is washed and put away wet.
But even if he is, I don't think Nick Chubb is a guy that you bring in just to be a body when training camp starts. Like, I really think that running back room is extremely volatile. And like you guys said, like CJ Stroud, if they didn't improve the O-line, like he's going to be pressured just like he was last year. And they went and got him more weapons that hopefully, he can air it out and get it out fast, whether that's to Noel or that's if Nico ends up getting hurt, they can kind of replace Higgins and keep the same scheme and hopefully have a bounce back from what they did last year.
Yeah, I would like to see Noel get that job. There's one thing you could say about Kirk, though. He's certainly not flashy, but he's a consummate professional. He runs a pretty good route. So he's going to be where you need him to be. That doesn't mean he's going to, break off 1,000 yards out of the slot this year and catch 10 touchdowns. But, you need, especially when you draft 2 rookies, you need some of that extra stability in a veteran to be out there. And that's probably, I guess, Grindberg, what they got with Chubb too. Even if he's just a goal line short yardage guy, they brought in, a veteran and that they can rely on to get 2 yards. If they need 2 yards, that Chubb's going to get it.
For sure. Yeah. All right, guys. So we're coming up on the hour. I'm here every week, so I'm not going to tell people where they can find me. But for the 3 of you, thank you so much for being on the show today. Where can the people find you? Where can they find their content? And what place do you think that you're going to finish in Fishbowl this year? So Mad Dog, we'll start with you.
Well, you can find me at Dynasty Degens. The Discord is in my link, also on the Dynasty Degens page. You can find me at ff_DeMadDog on Twitter. As for Scott Fishbowl, I'm just hoping I have relatively the same standings as I did last year. I'd like to see maybe semifinals again. That'd be great.
You can find me on Twitter at Buy and Sell You. I write for Player Profiler, and I am also part of Dynasty Degens. I have a redraft show that'll be going every Tuesday throughout the season. And actually, I have a special guest next Tuesday. And he's stroking his facial hair right now.
Interesting.
So yeah. Catch up with me on Twitter. DMs are open. I'm always willing to talk.
Cool. That's awesome. And Grabberg, what about you? You just had some new stuff pop out lately, right?
Sure. Everything's happening here at the Fantasy Sports Advice Network. We're popping out new shows left, right, and center. You can catch us all. I mean, I'm on the Dynasty Pulse, the Fantasy Forecast, but what really we have going on here is the Grindhouse channel that we just launched in the last week or so. So we've got a kick butt Devi show.
Good save.
Yeah. The Devi Dojo, Dustin and Chris knocked it out of the park. On Saturday, we have the Dynasty Gamut launching, and Ben and Austin have done a great job getting that show off, and Crazy Corner is rocking out, and we've got an IDP show rocking out on that channel. So we are got a lot of content headed down on the FSAN channel, and obviously we are the lead sponsor at the Fantasy Football Expo coming up, and we've got a lot going down the pipeline. And Joe, you're a front runner in our channels as well, so we got a lot going on, and we're excited to see what 2025 fantasy football season brings for us. And everybody in the chat, we really appreciate everybody joining us, subscribing, and tuning in, because we're growing, the platform's growing, and things are happening. And why don't you plug Fast Draft, Samwise, because we're affiliates of them. They're a great partner of us. Like, we do a lot of work with guys from Player Profiler. So talk about Fast Draft a little bit.
Absolutely. If you guys aren't playing Fast Draft yet, you're missing out. It's inexpensive to play. You don't have to wait around to draft. If you don't have time to do it, you can set it for turbo. All you do is make your rankings, and that doesn't mean you're just going to get the same team every time, because you're going to be entering into different contests too. So I mean, literally, you could put $20 down and say, I need 4 lineups. Here's my rankings. Go. And then you get an email like a half hour later saying, here's your 4 teams. It's a lot of fun, but a $5 entry, you can turn that into 10 grand at the end of the season.
Good deal. So let's wrap this thing up. So I did want to give a shout out to everybody that drafted with us today. Just looking overall at the board, I mean, you can see how many different ways that you can approach this draft. I don't think there's going to be a right or a wrong unless you're looking at my draft strategy, which is obviously perfect. But like Grindberg said at the start of this is all for charity related reasons. So we're doing it for fun. We're doing it for a good cause. So if you're looking to get involved, fantasycares.org. But with that, we're going to wrap things up from the forum. I'm Joe Frick. As always, enjoying the time with my friends. We will see you next Friday, 10 p.m. Eastern, 9 o'clock Central. Y'all have a blessed evening, and we will catch you next week.
Peace.
We are here. FantasySportsAdvice.com, offering the best fantasy sports social media platform. Why join endless Discord communities or the trolls of Reddit? Fantasy Sports Advice is a community designed to help you win with 24/7 support. Go to FantasySportsAdvice.com and become a pro member for unlimited access. Again, go to FantasySportsAdvice.com today.